This meeting is being recorded.
So you guys just got that notice. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're officially recording. We had a lot of interest in watching the training at a later date. So we're going to be able to share that YouTube link with others. Thank you all for being here this morning. This is the How to Ride the Bus virtual training. So I am Kelly Schneider. I am the Johnson County Mobility Coordinator, and I'll be leading you through the ins and outs of public transit here in our area. Co-presenting with me today, I have Shanae. Shanae is a University of Iowa Master's in Social Work student.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for saying hi there. So we have a bit of a smaller group than we're used to, so that's great. We will definitely have some time to ask some questions. So if you have any specific questions about your address or your place of employment that you don't feel comfortable asking on the recording, that's completely okay. We will have some time towards the end where we stop the record and you can ask those specific questions. And then of course, I am always available to work with you one-on-one to get you connected with the transit information that's specific to your destinations. So I'm going to start with the share screen here. Okay, so here is my contact information up here on the screen. I am housed in the Johnson County Social Services Building, which is 855 South Dubuque Street in Iowa City, so in the County Human Services campus. My role as a mobility coordinator is to connect people with transportation resources in the county. So that looks a little bit different for each person. But some of the things I can do is help people figure out what bus route is near them. What bus gets them to the place that they hope to travel to, how to apply for discounts, trip planning, how to ride the bus, use transit technology, all of those good things. So here's my contact information, and this will come up one more time. And if you're interested in getting the slides, we can also share that along with the training video. Okay, so on the menu for today, with this being a little bit of a smaller group, perhaps we will get through the content just a touch sooner than we usually do. We are scheduled till 1:30, so if you need to take a break or mute or silence your screen, that's totally fine. Since we have a smaller group, you're welcome to jump in and ask questions at any point. Letting another person in there. Okay, so on the menu for today, we're going to do an overview of public transit in Johnson County. We'll talk about where to find transit information. We'll also talk about discounts, passes, fares, and transfers, where you can buy bus passes, how to use paper bus schedules. We'll talk about the elements of riding the bus, and then how to use transit technology. So I'll kind of show you some behind the scenes action on how to use different technology features that are out there for riding the bus in our area. And today, for this month's training, we're going to have a bonus topic and talk about the National Center for Mobility grant that I've been working on with Shanae and a group of other individuals that are addressing workplace and employment transportation barriers. So we're going to share what our concept and work has been there towards the end. So let's go ahead and get started. Shanae is going to start us off by talking about public transportation in Johnson County.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So we can start off by talking a little bit about public transit in Johnson County. So public transit in Johnson County looks like having a fixed route that serves urban areas and then an on-demand response service that serves the rural areas. So within the fixed route systems, we have CAN-Bus, Corvo Transit, and then Iowa City Transit. Any person with a disability that prevents them from being able to board, ride, or get on the bus can apply to use a specialized service within the ADA Paratransit. So for the demand responses, there's the rural systems such as SEATS, and SEATS is open to general public and then rural Johnson County. Within the ADA Paratransit, Corville and Iowa City Transit also use seats, and then CAN Bus uses Bionic Bus, which is a service for anyone that's affiliated with the university and then has a disability as well. We can talk more about this in detail later. And then we have here a map of Johnson County. The circles are kind of arbitrary, but they do offer a rough general idea of any areas covered by these services. It's color coded as well, so the colors help represent which bus belongs to who. We can see yellow is the CAN bus, blue is Coralville bus, Iowa City is red, and then seats is green. So SEATS serves any community in Johnson County. So areas like Solon, Tiffin, or Swisher, there's usually a lot of overlap between these systems, and it's pretty common for folks to use multiple systems to make their trips. These systems can work together to ensure that riders can get from point A to point B. Next, we can talk a little bit more about service times. So for the CAN bus, it operates on 2 different schedules. So during the University of Iowa session, the CAN bus is operating Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. And then Saturday and Sunday, it operates 11 a.m. through 1 a.m. During breaks in summer, when classes are out of session, the bus operates Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. For Corvo Transit, the bus is operating Monday through Friday, 5:35 to 12 a.m., and then Saturday, 7:15 to 8 p.m. With Iowa City Transit, it operates Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10:45 p.m., and then Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Seats Rule operates on Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Paratransit also operates at these times, but we can talk a little bit more about this. I'm going to stop now for any questions that you guys might have. Otherwise, you can always type them in the chat or just unmute yourself. So if we have any questions now, would be a good time to ask. Check the chat. No? Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about ADA Paratransit, and we can go into detail about that. So ADA Paratransit was born out of the Americans with Disabilities Act. ADA Paratransit service is a comparable transportation service required by the ADA for individuals with disabilities who are unable to ride fixed route transportation systems. This service offers door-to-door service in which riders are scheduled in advance. Eligibility is determined by an application specific to the city you live in. Johnson County Seats is what operates in Johnson County, and it offers a door-to-door service. Corville Transit and Iowa City Transit contracts with Johnson County Seats. And then there's CAN Bus, which has an internal service called the Bionic Bus, specifically for University of Iowa students, faculty, and staff. Next, we can talk about what applying for paratransit could look like and some helpful tips for that. So applications are specific to the city that you live in. So North Liberty and Coralville residents should apply with Coralville Transit. Iowa City residents should apply with Iowa City Transit. University Heights residents should apply with University Heights, the city of University Heights. Once you apply, there is a 21-day processing period, so it does take a while for services to kick in. During applications, riders can explain how it's functionally impossible for them to ride the fixed route bus, which can get into details about their disability and other points of interest. So it is a requirement that a physician verifies why it's functionally impossible for a rider to ride the fixed route bus. Folks can also ask for a companion or a personal care attendant during an application, and this basically means that you can have someone ride with you. Another point to add is that anytime the fixed route buses are operating, this is the same time that the paratransit services will also be operating. And both of these services will need an application. Next, we can talk about SEATS rural services. And this is a door-to-door service that helps serve our rural communities. So SEATS rural service can kind of be looked at by the green. So SEATS rural services is going to serve the green areas, and then the gray is more for the urbanized areas. The same buses and agencies that provide these paratransit services for Coralville and Iowa City riders is also providing rural transportation services called demand response. We can talk a little bit about the service schedule. So it's operating Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., except on recognized holidays. There's some information there about scheduling a ride information, canceling a ride. There's no application for C's rule. If you call and you give your address and it's in the green, you are authorized to ride. So that's pretty much all the eligibility required for that. Riders can usually book rides 1 or 2 days in advance just to ensure that the ride can be fulfilled. Yes. Next, we can talk about fixed route bus. So before we kind of get into that, were there any more questions anyone was having about maybe paratransit or Steve's rule? Okay, so we can get into the fixed route buses. On the screen, we have an image of the Town Crest route or Route 9, and you can kind of see all the green dots along that yellow line. So those green dots are meant to symbolize bus stops, and that yellow line or yellow greenish line is meant to symbolize the fixed route. And a fixed route is essentially as a designated path of travel, which is symbolized by the yellow line there. The fixed routes we're going to be talking about is the CAN bus, Corvo Transit, and then IC Transit. And then next we can show you a good visual to look at, just to get an idea of kind of like what routes are offered and what kind of routes can serve which locations. You can kind of see Coralville there, North Liberty, Iowa City, and then that star right there is meant to symbolize the downtown interchange, and that star is a pretty big player in kind of transfers. That's the common place for most transfers usually. Next, we're going to talk about the transit system, which we operate. The Johnson County Urbanized Systems kind of operates on a hub and spoke model. So the hub and spoke model means that all but one of the fixed routes stop and finish at the downtown interchange. Usually outbound travel means that you're heading away from downtown interchange, while inbound is meant to kind of imply that you're traveling towards downtown. If you wanted to get to maybe West High School from City High School, that would be an example of you potentially getting on a bus, and then it's likely that you'd want to ask for a transfer slip when you first board the bus, and we can kind of see that transfer slips are free between Iowa City Transit and Coralville Transit. So if you want to grab a transfer slip when you board the bus, for example, City High School, it'll take you to the downtown interchange, and then you might need to get on another bus to get to West High. That transfer slip is good to take you through these systems. Yes. And then here we kind of have more of a bird's eye view of that downtown interchange. So if you remember that star, this is a zoomed in kind of picture of that. So for the CAN bus, for example, not all the CAN buses stop here, but a good handful do. And they'll usually stop at 2 different locations. They might pull in at Clinton Street or Washington Street. Iowa City buses are always on either side of Washington Street. And then when it comes to Coralville buses, we can see that they're usually going to pull in at the corner of Washington Street. It's common if you're doing a transfer that you'll have to walk the corner to get to an Iowa City bus. Just to reiterate that these transfer slips can work between the systems. There are usually signs on the buses and downtown that let you know what side of the street your bus is departing as well. So we can kind of talk about bus stops next. If you remember those green dots, those were the same bus stops that we were looking at, and we can kind of move on and talk about how to read these. So in the image shown, we can see an Iowa City bus stop sign, and then on the right, you can kind of see the other fixed route signs for Iowa City, Coralville, and then CAN bus. Circled there is the 4 the 4-digit stop ID, and these are helpful in planning trips. There's also a QR code and a phone number you can use to call, as well as you can see the kind of texting information over there as well on the bottom. And then we can also talk about where to find more bus information. But before we kind of get into that, were there any more questions at all? You can check the chat. No, looks good. Okay, so when it comes to finding bus
Sinead?
information,
Dustin has a question. Dustin, do you want to unmute yourself and ask that?
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This is backing up to a paratransit question did come up for me. Is that only physical disabilities, or would that include intellectual disabilities where things like mapping or being able to memorize would be extremely difficult?
So that's a great question, Dustin. So that's any disability that prevents you from boarding, riding, or getting to the fixed drop bus. So they don't have like a magical list of diagnosis that says if you have this, you're approved. When you look at the application, it's really assessing that person's ability, and it's not just if they can physically get to the bus stop, but are they cognitively aware of where they are on the bus route, and would they know when to get off the bus or where to board the bus? So that's a really great question. But yes, there are other disabilities besides just physical that impact your riding.
That was a good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, we can kind of talk a little bit more about where to find bus information. So one of the best places to find bus information is on the bus, actually. So usually behind the driver's seat, there's going to be something that looks like this on the screen. Well, you're going to see like the brochures, and then this actually lets you know like which routes are going to pull on which side. So you can kind of see like the mall, which kind of routes are going to pull in there, and then for the university, what side of the interchange it's pulling away from. Usually Iowa City buses will have brochures of the different Iowa City transit routes, and usually on Corville you can also see the Corville brochures there too for the Corville buses. I think that's there. And then we can talk a little bit more about Corvo Transit. And if you're using Corvo Transit, you can call 319-248-1790 to reach any customer support if you have any questions about stops or services times or any transit related questions. You can also get a lot of good information on the website here, and that's kind of listed on the screen there. If you'd like updates on any interruptions or detours, you can even subscribe to get notifications like emails or text on any transit related things and services. For Corville, you can find bus schedules, brochures about transit times and routes at City Hall and the library. When it comes to Iowa City, we also have a transit website, and here you can access schedules there as well, and there's a number you can call that has a customer support, and you can reach out to them for any questions that you might have. Bus schedules can be accessed or seen at City Hall and the public library or ICGov. Iowa City also has an e-subscription where you can be notified by text or email, and then you can kind of see on the bottom right corner, there's the parking and transit office, which is also a good resource. Next, we can talk about CAN bus. So here's the CAN bus station, and it's right by the Kinnick Stadium, and it's right by the hospital. The station is connected to the hospital by Skywalk, and you can also find a lot of good information at this station. Here's the number for CAN bus. It's 319-335 and 1475. This is definitely a good number to have saved if you're someone who rides the CAN bus often. And next, we can talk about social media. So we have quite a few social media pages to check out for sure. There's a possibility that some of you might have found out about this training through social media. Again, it's a great way to access any transit related information or updates. So we can kind of see some screenshots of some previous updates posted. An example on the left could be there was an update about CAN bus here, and it was talking about fare changes. So definitely keeping up with the Facebook pages or any other social media pages would be helpful to just get a good idea of any updates that might be coming up and could be useful as well. There are also some applications to look out for, and we can talk about that in the next slide. So additionally, you can get notifications and updates on some different technologies or applications offered. So on the right, we can see some of the screenshots of some of the transit apps, which we will go into more depth about. On the left-hand corner, you can see an old screenshot of a message sent to a user from a former Bongo system, alerting them that the downtown interchange will not be served due to homecoming activities. You can also get information from texting this number, and then you'll be subscribed. So yeah, there's a lot of good ways to kind of get information and updates about transit and any interruptions or detours that might be happening. But that wraps up the social media part of it. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Shanae. That was really great. It was awesome to hear from a different voice. Okay, any other questions before we continue on and talk about discounts, passes, fares, all that good stuff? It looks like Christy has her hand raised. We'll go with Christy first.
I was actually just clapping for Shanae. So
Oh, that was clapping. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
my
okay.
icons are really tiny. And I
That's
think
all right.
Elizabeth was clapping too. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Excellent.
sorry to call you out on that. Yay for Shanae. Okay. So moving along here, we've got the discounts, passes, and fares. So we're going to start with the best stuff first, which is discounts, right? So this is how you can save money using the bus or potentially even ride for free. All right. Excuse me. Up first, we have the disabled bus pass. So we talked about paratransit, but some disabled users choose to use both paratransit, or they don't want to use paratransit and they want to ride just the fixed route buses. So if you have a disability that's physical or mental impairment, you can apply to for the disabled bus pass program. Once you're enrolled into this program, you can ride the bus for free anytime. So the application is there on the right-hand side, and I kind of highlighted the key definition, which is physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life areas. What happens is a person with a disability would fill out the top part of the application with their general information, and then they would need to have a physician sign off saying yes or no that they meet that definition of disability. That can be done multiple ways. I often tell people with disabilities to, if they have an appointment scheduled, they can take that with them and say, hey, I'd like to apply for this program. They could also, I can help them mail it in or fax it in. We can be creative on how that gets to their physician. What happens next is once the physician fills that portion out, we send that to 335 East Iowa Avenue, which is one of the locations that Shanae talked about that has bus passes or bus schedules. Once that application is turned into 335 Iowa Avenue, the rider can get issued the Iowa City Transit Disabled Bus Pass, which is that red and white card that you see on the screen. And by showing that to the driver, that rider can then ride for free anytime. So there, and just a little note on this right now, there was a supply chain issue on these actual cards. They are set to expire every 2 years, and this last batch expired at the end of this month, or at the end of February, beginning of March. So since they weren't able to get any new cards, the disabled riders are just able to show the driver the card and not actually have to use it on the fare box. And the rider will, the driver will manually let them ride for free versus using the fare box. So the smiley faces that you see on there is covering up the old policy. The old policy said that there was only certain times of the day that disabled riders could ride for free. This last summer, they changed that, and disabled riders can now ride for free any time of the day. Okay, Corville has the same program. Their pass looks a little bit different. It says C pass there on green. And their application looks a little bit different, but it hits those same points. The rider fills out their basic information and then has a medical professional sign off saying yes or no that they have a disability. That application, however, does get turned into Coralville City Hall. And at Coralville City Hall, they will issue you that disabled pass. You get the same features where you can ride for free anytime and you can transfer. So if you're a Coralville rider and you want to jump on an Iowa City bus, you could still show that pass. And then the same with the Iowa City riders, they can use their pass on the Coralville buses. I'm going to go to the question in the chat. Patricia said, I wonder about people who are aging. They may not necessarily think of themselves as disabled. Instead, they may have age-related impairments. So, Patty, perfect timing. This next slide here, I talk about some of the other discounts. So with no application required, if you are 65 and older and you are an Iowa City, University Heights residents, you can just show your ID and not ever have to go through those extra steps of applying. If you show the bus driver your ID, you can get on the bus for free. Coralville has just a slightly different policy where they do want you to go to City Hall and they will issue you an actual senior pass. But Iowa City says we're not going to mess with that. Anybody that's 60 and 65 and older, they can just show their ID. So let's say you're maybe like 63 and you have a disability. Unfortunately, you would have to go through those steps to verify the application on that one. Going back to those seats card holders can use the door-to-door service with seats, but they can also say, hey, this ride is more accessible for me by fixed route. It's a little bit faster. It gets close enough to the destination that it works for me. And they can show their seats certification and they can ride the fixed route buses for free. Again, former policy sets some parameters on when people could ride for free, but the new policy is seniors and people with disabilities and seats card holders and Medicare card holders can all ride for free anytime. So that last one there is for Medicare card holders. They can just flash that pass to the driver and be able to jump on for free. Any questions about those discounts? Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about just the general passes and fares. Firstly, we need to know where you could buy these. So up on the screen, I have all the different options for purchasing bus passes in the area. So you can see that all of the Hy-Vees in Johnson County sell the bus passes. That includes First Avenue in Iowa City, Hy-Vee Drugstore in Iowa City, Waterfront in Iowa City, North Dodge in Iowa City, and both of the Coralville Hy-Vees. That same office, 335 East Iowa Avenue, downtown in Iowa City, sells the bus passes along with Coralville Library, Coralville City Hall, and Coralville Rec Center. Okay, here are the different types of passes. The first pass that I have listed is the 31-day pass. So on the left-hand side of the screen, the 31-day pass is for sale for $32 for adults. And then if you are age 5 through 18, you can purchase that pass for half price, which is $16. Anybody 5 and under, or any child 5 or under is able to board and ride the bus for free. So there's no charge for 5 and under. What this 31-day pass does is it allows you unlimited rides. So let's say you jumped on the bus today and swiped your pass on the fare box. there would be a stamp on the back of your pass that told you when it would expire. And that would be directly 31 days from the time that you first swiped it. So again, these passes can be used between Coralville and Iowa City, but the cities do prefer that if you live in Iowa City, your first swipe of that bus pass should be on Iowa City bus, because that's kind of how they keep their payment system sorted. So there's a picture of what those passes currently look like for the Iowa City residents, but again, they are able to use it interchangeably. For $8.50, you can actually buy a 10-ride pass. The 10-ride pass does not expire. So that's kind of nice for people that maybe ride a little bit more irregularly and would maybe not use 10 rides in a 31-day time period. On the back of the card, you can see again that it's going to stamp how many rides you have used towards that ride. And if you remember back to when Shanae was talking about that hub and spoke model, if it's taking 2 buses to get to your final destination, so one starting at City High, transfer downtown, and then another one to get to West High, you only have to pay 1 time. So that is a 10 one-way rides there. Whereas the 31-day pass, you can skip asking for a transfer because you get to ride unlimited. All right, I'm going to jump to the chat. If I have a 10 ride, if I have 10 people who need to go somewhere together, can we use the 10 ride pass for everyone? You bet, Patty. That is the best way if you're doing group rides, or you could also do the single ride tickets too. And I can't remember if I have a picture of a single ride ticket on here or not. Any other questions? Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Give me just a second here. Okay. All right, so we talked about 31-day 10 ride. Now we're jumping to the new pass that is offered for Iowa City and Coralville Transit. And I think I must have skipped this in the beginning. We're only talking about Coralville and Iowa City for the passes and fares, and that is because the University of Iowa CAN bus is free and open for anybody to ride. So there's no fare boxes on the buses. You can just jump on. While it does target the University of Iowa destinations, any person can board, ride, or use that system for free. There's no cost associated with that. So back to Iowa City and Coralville, another pass that they offer is a 24-hour pass. So this is a pass that you can buy directly on the bus. So you jump on the bus and you approach the driver and you ask for that 24-hour pass. The driver would then print out the 24-hour pass for you. And just like we saw formerly stamped on the back, it would tell you when that 24 hours would be set to expire. So the 24-hour pass is for sale for $2, and that can be used on both the Iowa City and Coralville buses as well. So let's say you have somebody in town visiting for the weekend. This would be a great way to get around unlimited rides for that 24-hour period. Next, we have just the general fare. So if you're somebody, again, Patty, if you could do this for your group of 10, depending on their age, if nobody was a senior or under 5 or somebody with a disability, they could all choose to you could give the driver a $10 bill and pay for the next 10 people behind you. Otherwise, if it's just you could pay for $1 to board or 4 quarters, and they do require exact change for that. In this same situation for any youth of age 5 through 18, they would just have to pay 50 cents. Okay. Again, talking about transfers, we talk about this a lot because this is one of the most confusing parts about riding the bus. But the key thing to remember is if you go back to that diagram of the hub and spoke model, if you're going from one leg to another leg, that transferring is for free. The key is to ask for the transfer when you get on the first bus. That way, when you get off the bus and get on the next bus, you just hand them that transfer slip. So on the bottom of the screen is a picture of the transfer slip. Again, those fare boxes have the system where it can stamp on the back when the transfer was issued, the time and dates there, the exact bus, direction. None of that's exactly relevant to you guys. But if you look, it says when that's due to expire. So in this example here on the screen, the transfer was issued at 2:50 p.m. and expires at 4:05 p.m. So if the bus takes that long, you have a little bit of room of cushion. Most of the time it would be there before then, but if you wanted to and the time was there, you could jump into the Old Capitol Mall and grab some food, have a coffee, use the restroom. There's the library downtown, go buy some more bus passes. So you have a little bit of wiggle room there before your transfer does expire. And again, if you the only times that you would need to ask for a transfer is if you're using cash, single ride ticket, or the 10 ride pass. Any questions? I don't see anything in the chat or any hands. Okay, now we're going to transition and talk about the bus route brochures. So we're talking about oh, sorry, I'm pausing. I'm reading a question in the chat from Christy. And I'm gonna, Christy, if that's okay with you, I'm gonna go ahead and read that out loud. I know this is a loaded question, but there has been has there been any advocacy on behalf of disabled people in terms of the walkability or rollability in our city? Are there resources for wheelchair users to at least familiarize themselves with the stops that are more accessible than others? That is a really great question. I can tell you that I don't think a little bit later, I'll be able to show you how the accessibility of the actual bus works. All of the fleet, so for Corvo, Iowa City, and Canvas, they all have what is called a kneeling feature, where the bus can actually lower itself closer to the curb, and then it can implement a ramp. And I do have a photo of that, so I will show you that, kind of call that out there when that happens. Now, when it comes to the stops, that is tricky. There is definitely stops come in all different shapes and sizes. Some of them are going to have bus shelters where you can actually sit and wait, and those are accessible. Some of them are on grass, some of them are at an intersection. Some of them may have a curb. So it really just depends on where that person is traveling. I don't think that there's a set, report on that I'm aware of. I can tell you that if you you yourself are a person with a disability that has questions about that, or you're working with somebody, I would love to work one-on-one with them to identify some of their frequent travel destinations, and I can actually go out and report back to them, hey, these are the kind of the climate of that particular bus stop that you hope to use. But that is a really great question. I appreciate that one. And then I also offer travel training too. So this is a good time to just slide that in. If you yourself would like some extra one-on-one coaching, or you work with somebody that would like some one-on-one coaching, I can actually get out from behind the computer screen and meet them, and we can ride the bus together, and I can kind of teach them the ropes with that. Which is a free service that I can offer for people with disabilities, those that are low income, and then seniors as well. So by all means, take advantage of that service if you can. Okay, so we are now going to talk about how to use the paper bus route brochure. So we're starting with the analog method. So analog meaning the power's out, you can't charge your phone, you can't call anybody, but you still need to get from point A to point B. So let's figure out how to read those actual paper schedules first. So up here on the screen, you'll see the Corvo Transit route brochure there on the left, Canvas is in the middle, and then the Iowa City ones are there on the right hand side. Okay, here is a picture of just the Corville fixed route. This is for the Route 24 and the Route 25. Route 24 runs in the evening times during the week, and then Route 25 runs the Saturday route. So this is pretty similar to that image that Shanae had up earlier when she was explaining what a fixed route is. But in this case, their imagery is a little bit different. They've got a black dashed line with a black arrow depicting the direction of travel, and they've got red dots and red stars that indicate their bus stops. The way that Corville is doing this is when you take a look at the back of this bus route brochure and you look at the columns, not all of the bus stops are listed because there's so many of them, right? The bus brochures will get super, super long. So they only list the stars. So the Coral Ridge Mall is listed. 9th Street and 22nd Avenue would be listed, but all of those red dots in between, you would either have to go to the Coral Ridge Mall column or the 9th Street column. And I'll show you what I mean here when we look at this, the back of the Iowa City Transit route. So this again is Iowa City Transit Route 5. So this is called the Lower Muscatine Kirkwood. This would be departing from downtown and going to Kirkwood Community College. So if you check out column A, that is when all the times, so half of the page really, that the Route 5 departs the downtown interchange. The next column, Battery and Dodge, and the next column is C, which is Kirkwood Community College. So there's quite a few other stops in between those three main columns there. So for the purpose of being on time, it's good to pick the column before. So there's about 5 minutes in between each of those columns. So I would just choose the column before if you're not sure. Okay, so this particular route actually passes Kirkwood 2 times. So that column C is when the bus is passing it for the outbound travel. And then right after F, in between F and G, is when the bus is coming back by Kirkwood. So if you're somebody that ever goes to Kirkwood Community College in Iowa City, you've got really great frequency. So let's do an example there. So let's say you're starting a class and your class starts at 10:30 a.m. So if you look down column C, which is the outbound arrival for Route 5, and look down here all the way until we find 10:30. So we see that there's a 10:31 arrival. So that would probably be too late. So let's try to get there a little bit sooner. If we go to the next line above that, you can see that there's a 10:11 arrival. So that works out pretty nicely. So for the 10:11 arrival, if we follow all the way over here to the left, we know that in order to get to Kirkwood Community College by 10:11, we would need to get on the bus by 10 a.m. So if we got on at 10 a.m., by 10:11, we would arrive to the Kirkwood Community College. So let's say that class is just like an hour and 25 minutes. If we go back to that column F, which I said to use for when we're departing Kirkwood, if the class gets over at 11:30, there's an 11:45. If we got on the 11:45 bus, we would arrive back downtown by 11:58. Any questions about using the analog method for scheduling? Okay. I do have written instructions here of what I just did, which is basically just making sure you're on the right column, the right row, day of the week, and all that good stuff. So this will be in your the slides if you would like to take a look at that at a later date, or it will be up here in the recording. Okay, we're going to get into the elements of riding the bus here now. Okay, and did somebody and I think one of our social media posts asked about a video where it explains how to get your bicycle on the bus. So this picture that I have here on the screen shows a person that's loading their bike on the bus. It's just a still, but you can see that there is space for 2 bicycles on the Iowa City Transit bus and the Corvo Transit buses. If any of you are bike riders or know bike riders that would like to get their bike loaded on, I can share a video that explains the components of getting your bike loaded. But this just explains that there are 2 bikes that can fit there. Okay, so now we've got the first part is waiting for the bus. So Shanae, Patty just asked in the chat, how heavy of a bike? I actually don't know. I can tell you that e-bikes, yeah, those get very heavy. So I can tell you that like the fat tire bikes, Patty, the wheel might be too wide, but I do not know the specific weight limit. But the driver isn't going to be able to help you with that part. They've got to stay on the bus. So you got to make sure that your bike is a weight that you can lift to get it up on that rack there. So that's something to be mindful of. But I will definitely, Patty, write this down and get back to you, because that's a great question. I feel like e-bikes are becoming more and more popular. Okay. So Shanae showed you a picture of all those bus stop signs. So here's a picture of a bus shelter. This particular shelter is located by the Waterfront Hy-Vee, which is served by Route 1, the South Iowa City route. So when you're riding the bus, it's best practice to be about 3 to 5 minutes early. There's no smoking. You should plan to have your payment or discount card available. You should never walk in front of the bus, and make sure you're looking for vehicles. It's also a good practice to wave to the driver. The particular shelter that I have showed here, that's a very popular stop for people to get on and off. Some of them may not be quite as popular, so it's a good idea to wave to the driver, especially if you're at a downtown stop where there's multiple bus routes serving that area, such as Coralville or Canvas. You should always board from the front door. That is also the accessible door. And yeah, so that's waiting for the bus. When you're boarding the bus, you'll want to make sure that you check the scroll. The scroll is the name of the bus. I have that and a yellow rectangle there that says Town Crest Route on it. Here's the photo of the ramp. So this is a picture of the CAN bus, and that has the ramp deployed. So you would just ask the driver if you wanted to use the ramp, and they would be able to flip that out for you and kneel the bus down if they needed to. This section there that we're talking about can also get kind of wet, especially on a morning like today. So you'll want to make sure that you're hanging on to the handrails. Not on the CAN bus, but if you're riding an Iowa City or a Coralville bus, you would pay the fare using the fare box, and I'll have a picture of that coming up. And of course, ask for your transfer if needed. And if you're a new rider and you're not sure where you're going, or you just want to introduce yourself, you can tell them where you're going or where you hope to get off. I show here on the next couple of slides the request to stop cord, and if you're not sure when to pull that, this is a good time to tell the driver, I plan to go to the Amazon location on South Iowa City. I'm not sure when to pull the cord. They can provide you some feedback on when to do so. Okay, here is a picture of the fare box. So I have a lot of color-coded circles here. Don't feel like you have to remember this. If you get on the bus and you're like, I can't remember which goes where, that's okay. That's what the drivers are there to help guide you through. But for the purpose of this training, let's go ahead and go through these. So if you're somebody that's paying with coins, that would get dropped into the red circle. Dollar bills, those would get slid into the dollar bill section. If you have a non-expired senior or disabled pass, that can get tapped on the bullseye, but remember, most of them are expired right now, so you'll just have to visually show the driver. If you've got a 10 ride or a 31-day ride, those go into the purple circle. So the purple circle can also print out the transfer slip. So if you're somebody that needs to use a transfer slip, that's the section you would grab the transfer slip out of. Any questions about that? Okay. All right, so now we've paid the fare and we're on the bus. The front seats that I have pictured here, these are flipped up on this picture of the Cornville bus on the bottom. Those are to allow wheelchairs or any mobility devices that need secured for travel to be safely secured there. So that means that those front seats should be saved for elderly and people with disabilities. As you're making your way back through the bus, you'll want to hang on to the seat backs or sanctions, which are circled there in the yellow. The sanctions are kind of those poles there. Take a seat and remain there until it's time to get off the bus. And be sure to listen to the automated recording that's on the bus reciting the intersections coming up, and look out the window for landmarks to make sure you're paying attention to where you are on the way. Okay, here's our stop request cord. So this is a yellow cord that circulates the bus. When you pull that cord, it provides notice to the driver that you're ready to get off the bus. So you should plan to pull the cord well in advance. The best practice is to pull about a half a block before, or the stop before the bus stop that you plan to get off. Again, if you're not sure when to pull the cord, that's something you could ask those customer service lines or ask that driver directly when you're boarding the bus. Okay, it's time to get off the bus, so you'll want to make sure that you gather your personal belongings. If you're physically able to, you should plan to exit on the back door, which is circled in red. That allows people that are getting on at that particular stop access to the fare box so that they can get on in the front door. If you are not able to use that back door, that's perfectly fine. You're welcome to go to the front door and again ask for that ramp if you need it to. Once you get off the bus, if you have plans to cross the street, you'll just want to make sure that the bus pulls off before you try to cross the street so you're not walking in front of the bus. Okay, we are doing so great on time here. Are there any questions that I've missed? Okay, I don't see any. So we kind of talked about the analog method for planning a trip, and now we will talk about transit technology. Okay, so first up, Shanae gave us a little intro here to the ICAT system, which is formerly known as Bongo. ICAT system is an information system that provides information for Corvo Transit, Iowa City Transit, and CAN Bus. So all three of those systems all use ICATs. What ICATs does is it works with the GPS system of those buses and reports back to users asking for the information on where the bus is. So if you remember back to that 4-digit stop ID that Shanae showed us several slides ago, that 4-digit stop ID can give you the information for how quickly the bus is arriving to that particular stop that you're using. So there are multiple ways to get that information. The first way being calling. So you can call the phone number up here on the screen, 471-4155, and enter your 4-digit ID into the keypad. And the automated system will recite back to you how quickly the bus will arrive to that stop. You can also take a peek online, and I'll show you guys a couple of tricks on the website. And then, as Shanae mentioned, there's a QR scan on the bus stops, and then you can also text. So if you text the word BONGO and then enter your bus stop number, to the phone number 41411, you can get a text back saying this is how quickly the bus will be arriving. So let's go ahead here, and I'm going to switch over my share and show you guys what the Bongo or ICAT's website looks like. Okay, can you guys see the website pulled up? Awesome. Okay, so this is the front page here of the ICAT's website. So a couple of things to get familiar with is this banner here in the kind of blackish gray. If you click on routes, you can see the route profiles for each of the Coralville routes, all of the CAN bus routes, and the Iowa City routes. So let's take a closer look at Route 13. I'm choosing this route because that is the route that Shanae and I are currently on. So if we click on this route profile, we'll see the name of the route, and we'll also get a look at the map, which is interactive. So you can zoom in on that. Here's Shanae and I, we're right here in this building. So if we wanted to, we could hover our mouse over this green dot, which is the bus stop. And that tells us that the nearest bus stop to us is stop number 7071 at Benton Street and Clinton Street. If we scroll below there, we can see all of the stops that Route 13 makes, starting downtown and then eventually ending back downtown. So let's go to, where did our stop go? So here's the stop that Shanae and I are at. So if I click on that particular stop, it will bring me to the profile for stop 7071. So this is the same information you get if you were scanning the QR code, or if you were calling and entering 7071, or if you were texting 7071. So you can see here that it's color coded again. So it has a red banner that says in 8 minutes at approximately 1:09, the Route 13 South Gilbert bus will be arriving, which is of course served by Iowa City Transit. It tells you the bus number. If that's a little bit too soon, we could wait for 66 minutes to board the 65 minutes to board the 206 bus. So that is a feature to become familiar with. There's also the next tab over is all the different stops. So the first column here is going to show all the stops that are shared by one system or more, and then all the specific stops for Coralville, CAN bus, and Iowa City. So let's take a look at McBride Hall. That's a pretty popular stop. So if I click on this one, again, it's going to be color coded. So arriving soon, that means the CAN bus is basically pulling up there. Those two there in the blue, that would be Coralville Transit. So you can see that that would be a shared stop. Another feature on Bongo is the map. And this one's kind of nice because let's say that I want to go from my work, which is South Gilbert. So if I click on this route, and then I want to go to the mall in Coralville, which is served by 10th Street. If I click on those two routes, this map above here will show me what that path of travel looks like. So it kind of gives you a good idea of what your trip will look like. The one thing that Bongo does not, or the ICAT does not do, is it does not help you with like the trip planning other than how quickly the bus stop is arriving. So there's better platforms for that, and we'll talk about those here in just a second. So I'm going to jump over to my Google Maps tab here, and I just went to googlemaps.com. I use this pretty frequently, so it already knows that I'm starting in Iowa City. So let's find my address. Where am I at? I'm at 855 South Dubuque Street. If I zoom in, there's a lot of businesses there. If you zoom in close enough, you'll see these blue icons. The blue icons have little blue squares. They have a white bus on top of them. If you hover over that icon, it will say, hey, look, there's that same bus stop that we were just taking a peek at. But here's what the information that Google Maps is going to tell you. So if I click on that particular bus stop, I will get a profile that pops up here on the left. My favorite part, and maybe this would be helpful, Christy, for some of those riders with disabilities you were mentioning, is you can get the visual on Google Maps. Now, keep in mind that there should be a time and date on there. So there could, it could be 6 years old and things have changed, but it could give you kind of a good feel for that territory that you might be traveling to. But the more importantly, you can see that stop ID. So it has that same stop number that we were talking about. I could directly say, okay, I want to plan directions from this stop and go to the Coral Ridge Mall, and it would shoot me the transit directions, or I can see the route number. I know that somewhere down here. Oh, I passed it. Oh, here it is. Okay, departure board. So if I click on this feature, I can see all of the times that Route 13 is coming. I really don't get off work till 4:30, so I don't think it'd be acceptable for me to head to the mall now. So if I get off work right at 4:30 and jump on the bus at 4:37, it would be there. But I'm not sure what time I get on the Coralville bus. So let's go ahead and try to plan that way. Oops. Okay, so I'm going from my work to Coral Ridge Mall. Let's just type it in that incorrectly. You can see that Google's a little bit better, and it knows that I'm trying to type in the Coral Ridge Mall. So what it's doing here is it's giving me the driving directions. Well, I don't want to take my car, so I need to switch over to the next icon, which is the bus icon. So here are my options for if I wanted to leave immediately and head over to the Coral Ridge Mall. They've got leave at 1:07 option. We just saw that on Bongo, so that makes sense. There's a different route if I wanted to walk up a little bit, or this one or this one. So let's click on this particular option. So once I click on the option, it will show the details of where I'm starting. It has that stop ID number. It's telling me to ride the bus to Siemens Center, which is the University of Iowa location, and then transfer to the Route 23, which would then get me to the Coral Ridge Mall. But let's say, again, this is saying I'm ready to leave right now, but I really want to toggle here and scroll down to depart at. So I don't get off work till 4:30. So let's change that part here. I could even switch the day too. So if you wanted to go on a different day of the week, you could see if that's changing. Most of the times in our area, that's just going to be the Saturday schedule. So by clicking on that, there's that 4:37 option that I saw earlier. I could choose to print that off. I think this one means like post on your social media or text it to yourself or to somebody else if you plan on riding with a friend. So that's Google Maps in a nutshell. Question from Dustin. Do inbound buses always become the outbound buses? Example, I want to go to Coral Ridge Mall from McBride Hall in Iowa City. Can I hop on the inbound Coralville route, then just stay at the same hub? So I think what you're asking is if you stay on the same bus, does it continue on the same route all the time?
Yeah, like if I get on a bus that says inbound, but I will eventually be wanting to go outbound, does that same physical bus become the outbound bus? So like when I get to the hub,
if you've started on inbound, and if you never got off, it would eventually become the same outbound bus. However, once you get back to downtown, it's likely that route could start as another route.
Okay.
So for example, a lot of times, especially in Iowa City, the routes will pair. So that same bus will complete the Route 9 town trust trip. But then when it gets back to downtown and completes that whole route, it might switch to the Route 10 and go out to the west side.
Okay, so
But if-
yeah, it's not a guarantee that
Yeah, but
it's not
in the situation that you mentioned, if you're starting on the same inbound bus, yes, and you never get off, you'll be on the same route and it will get you back to downtown. So for somebody, and I know this because sometimes when I'm training people and we just want to get to know one particular route, if we start downtown, and let's say we want to know Route 13, we could get on downtown, stay on the bus the entire time until it comes back to downtown.
Got
So
it.
you can get to know that full route. If that's a good learning feature for somebody, they could do that. Great question. Any other questions about Google Maps or the ICAT's website or anything in general? Okay. Here's the thing with Google Maps. So with the ICAT system, or what we used to call Bongo, that works with the GPS system of the bus. So like this morning, for example, when there was a bunch of snow and maybe the buses were running a little bit slower than they normally did, the ICAT system would be able to automatically update those times because it works with the GPS system of the bus. The Google Maps system does not work with the GPS system of the bus. So the Google Maps system is working based on those scheduled times. So the times that you would see in the route brochures are uploaded onto the Google Maps platform. So if there was a snowstorm, Google Maps will not have that information updated. So that is something to take into account. I like to tell people when it comes to technology that it's a good idea to get a feel for each platform and kind of figure out which one does your favorite feature on which brings us to the most recent and most up-to-date platform, which is called Transit app. Let me get back to my share. Okay, so Transit app. So Transit app came around, probably maybe like 2019. So it's a few years old. It is honestly, I think it's a international platform because you can even use the Transit app in Canada if you were traveling there, or some locations in Europe. The Transit app works with your GPS on your smartphone. So when you open your smartphone, if you have your GPS enabled, Transit app would be able to tell you the routes and the service times that are specific to your current location. If you were to travel to Toronto or somewhere in Canada and open the app up there, it would provide you with the information for that location that you traveled to. So it is a very nice platform, especially for people that are traveling. So for our area, each of those systems that we've been talking about today, which is for fixed routes, which is Corvo Transit, Iowa City Transit, and CANBUS, they are all on the Transit app. And again, they work with our GPS of our smartphones and then the GPS of the buses. So unfortunately, because it's an international app, there is no website to use for that specific information. You have to use a smartphone device or a tablet that has GPS capabilities. So I can't go to a website and show you the behind the scenes, but I did work with the city of Iowa City to create a video. And I think I need to remember how to share the video. I'm gonna have to adjust my share. Oops. Give me just a second here. Okay. And also on, I'm on my website here. Maybe I should just give you guys a share of that so you know what I'm doing. So on my website, this is where you'll find the training recording. Right now we have our January training up there. And if you scroll down a little bit, there are transit videos. So if you ever want to show somebody a tutorial of how to use Google Maps, the transit app, which is what I'm going to show you now, or the accessibility. Christy, I completely forgot. I made a whole entire video on how to use the accessibility of the bus. So that would be a really great one to become familiar with. So there are some videos here. I can look. I think this would be a good place to add the bike video. So Patricia, if you ever wanted to know how to get your bike on the rack, I think I can get that uploaded to this section. But for now, let me stop talking about the videos and show you the transit app video. Did it start on a new screen? Let me know if you guys can see the YouTube link. Can you see YouTube? Yeah, okay. Oops, I clicked on the wrong one. Can you guys hear the video?
No, we can't.
Okay. Let me stop my share and reshare. Thanks for letting me know.
Make sure to share your
The
audio.
I always forget to do that. There's that little button. Okay, let's try this again.
It is a mobile app that allows you to have real-time information
Now
for
it's
all
good.
of Johnson County's fixed route buses, Iowa City Transit, Coralville Transit, and CAMBus. Conveniently working with your phone's GPS, the Transit app shows the current location of buses, the stops closest to you, and the upcoming departure times. Here's how to use it. Download Transit from your App Store. When you open the app, the first screen you see shows the bus routes near you based on your current location. Take a closer look at a route by tapping on the route banner. Here you can see a route's path of travel and stops along the way, shown as dots. Pinch to zoom out to see the bus's current location, indicated by the bus icon. Click the X to get back to the front page of the app. Now, let's plan a trip. Let's say you're currently in downtown Iowa City and would like to ride the bus to the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics for a doctor's appointment. Tap the green search bar labeled Where To, where it says Line or Destination. Type in UIHC. Select the best search result. In this case, UIHC 200 Hawkins Drive is where you want to go. Next, the Transit app provides you with options for completing your trip. Tap on the option to see more details. If you're ready to leave right away, select the green Go button. This feature will lead you through guided audio and visual directions for your journey. But let's say your appointment isn't until later this afternoon. Touch the red X to get back to the trip options. Tap on the Leave Now button and change your selection to Arrive By. Then, scroll the time to when you want to get there and select Done. Tap on the route that best meets your needs. After making your selection, you'll see the directions and the time at which you need to leave. Tap the bell icon to set a reminder for when it's time to head to the bus stop. Slide to select how early you want to be reminded, and tap Create Reminder. The reminder will push a notification to your phone when it's time to leave for your appointment. From here, tap Go and be on your way. Now you know the basic navigation and trip planning features of the Transit app. Other features you may want to check out include favoriting your most frequented routes, and up-to-the-minute service alerts, such as detours or other notices that may impact your travel. Contact your transit system for more information, or connect with the Johnson County Mobility Coordinator for additional resources and videos.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys all for listening in on that app. I did see a chat from Patricia. Patricia, you asked a wonderful question about ICATs or the bongo system. So that system is no longer in the app format, and that is because there is a transit app now. So if you were to go to Bongo in the App Store, I think it would jump you directly to the transit app website now, or the transit app.
It goes to Iowa Bus.
Yeah, so I think that that's like a kind of a homegrown bus app that a University of Iowa student created. I'm not super familiar with that. I can't recommend you use that app. If it works for you, let me know. I've never had any background or testing on it to be able to say this is a solid app to use. But I would definitely say that, you know, it's worth checking out. Do you see the transit app in your app store?
I didn't.
Okay.
So look for transit app.
Yeah, let me go back to the thumbnail of what that looks like. It's a little green icon with a white, kind of looks like a bus route.
Oh, I've got that one.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully that clarifies. With the ICATs
Okay.
or the bongo system, it's still going to be accessible by text, phone call, QR scan, and website, but not smartphone app, which is a little bit confusing. So I think that's a great question.
I love the Bongo app on my phone. I missed it.
What's interesting is like if you have the Bongo app from back in the day, you're grandfathered in, and it seems to be updating correctly, like with the new routes and stops like that, but you can't newly download it. So
Darn, I deleted it because I thought it was obsolete.
yeah. I wish I knew a way to share that, but
Me too.
luckily, yeah, with some practice, that hopefully you find the transit app meets your needs. So my favorite part from the transit app is that you saw this in a video, is you can actually prompt it to give you the steps like you would if you were driving in your car and getting car GPS, so which is pretty nice to have. So we are done with the training, and I was going to spend a little time talking about the National Center for Mobility Management grant. So you're welcome to stick around and listen to a project that I've been working on to solve employment transportation barriers. But before I talk about that, I need to find the button that tells me how I can start the poll. There it is. Any other questions before I go ahead and start the poll? The poll will be, I think, 10 questions. That's an evaluation of the training that we just went through. Oh no. Shanae, I might have to make you not be the
The host.